With us. Why do you say this could be the bleeding leading edge of something bigger and bolder?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Tyler. What was interesting about this attack is the severity of it, right? So when you see accounts being taken over, we saw the Associated Press, which had a substantial drop in the stock market a few years ago. These accounts are usually taken over by a misconfiguration or a weak password that comes out there. In this case, it was massive account takeovers of thousands of accounts, high-profile accounts, and the most powerful accounts in the world. And it showed, a direct flaw within Twitter. These attackers had access to back-end systems that allowed them to hijack essentially all of the different accounts that were happening out there. What's particular about this, though, is when we start to look at what hackers do and the methods that they operate by, we try to categorize them into who they might be based on the patterns that they exhibit. For example, if it's ransomware, for example, they may have tried to target Twitter's internal systems and encrypted it for a larger amount of cash. Nation states or adversaries like China, Russia, North Korea, Iran would focus more on long-term gains of access into the infrastructure and going slow. This one was particularly interesting because they literally just went in and went very noisy all up in front, which, they only yielded about $120,000, which is not a lot of money when it comes to the level of access and power they had. In fact, you probably could have went online and sold access to the back-end systems on Twitter for multiple millions of dollars for foreign entities or governments that would want access to those. So something doesn't quite add up.
Does the fact that these perpetrators did not get away with a lot of money and didn't do what you described there, which is potentially sell their the access that they had developed for multiple millions of dollars, does it tell you that they were amateurs or what?
That could absolutely be one of the pieces where they were just literally what in the security industry we call script kiddies, or people that are generally novice or average. But if you look at how they targeted all these account takeovers almost instantaneously, they were definitely doing something called scripting or building programming logic behind this so that they can do this automatically, which would automatically increase the level of sophistication. So it doesn't necessarily add up to amateurish-like behavior. And as the previous person, and Steve had said around it, they look like they had a lot of inside help potentially. We don't know how long these attackers have been in Twitter. It could be a much larger systemic breach than just a few systems. They could have had access for weeks, months, had stolen emails, direct messages, internal email communications. We don't know the extent of this data breach currently today. And Twitter's being, obviously very, very non-responsive on that because they're doing an investigation and incident response. The FBI is involved now. This could be a much larger data breach than we saw or that we're seeing right now happen and what happened yesterday.
A couple of quick questions. Do you think they had inside help?
Well, Twitter's response was very interesting. They said it was a collaborative social engineering attack. Now, when you hear about social engineering, you instantly think somebody from the outside trying to bring to break in. They say collaboratively, which is an interesting term to use. We don't have any confirmation that it was an insider. A lot of times these attacks, you get an email, it looks believable, you open it up, and it now allows a hacker onto your system. They can move from that system to other systems, and it spreads like a wildfire within the organization. And one person can literally systematically be the entire downfall of an entire organization. So, we don't know the details yet, but it could have been a rogue employee. And those types of breaches where you have a malicious insider are some of the most devastating types of breaches that you see because they already have established access, and it's very difficult to even monitor those types of intrusions.
As far as I know, among the accounts they did not hack was the most famous one of all, President Trump's. Why?
That's right. So you saw Joe Biden, you saw Barack Obama, and a number of other accounts that were there. If you're going after the most powerful people, obviously the President of the United States, the White House communication, Twitter streams, all of those would have been key ones. My only guess on that would be that they have additional security controls in place for the president based on his, obviously the power that he has in the United States government. So, quarantining those off into separate systems so that people can't actually interact or interface with those. And as you know, Twitter has been very vocal with censoring President Trump in certain tweets that he's had and modifying it and showing manipulated media, things to that effect. And they have a lot of people that are against, I think, the president himself. So modifying that and making sure that employees can't actually change it without approval processes is a good step. But that should have really been applied to the entire organization, all of the accounts. Having one employee having the ability to modify everybody's account and post on behalf and potentially see all direct messages shows some insecurities there.
David, thank you very much for a very fascinating conversation.